What up, everybody, and welcome back to the Endzone, brought to you by Gym Bag Entertainment, and this is your football show by the guy who loves football. I'm your boy Craig, and let's talk football. Last I was with you, we was talking the top 200 fantasy rankings, and we ran out of time, so I don't want to leave you hanging. We're gonna jump right back into it, quick, fast, and in a hurry. So where we last left off, we was in the quarterbacks, and I think I ran through it, but let's just take a quick little run through to refresh our memories. You know, you got Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, excuse me. Let's reverse that. You have Patrick Mahomes and then Jalen Hurts. And at ADP, I think that's a fair price. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to return to vintage fantasy beast Patrick Mahomes, okay? So I like drafting him. I am particularly not an early quarterback drafter. I don't love grabbing early quarterbacks. I think that the quarterbacks you get in the later rounds will pay off just as well, sometimes even better. Last year, Dak Prescott was the highest scoring quarterback in fantasy football, and you probably got him somewhere around round 10, if not later than that, depending on the type of league that you're in. So I think it's a little irresponsible, in my opinion, in fantasy football to draft a quarterback where you could get a viable running back, wide receiver, or a tight end, and get a quarterback who's going to, on average, score within, if not more, 2 to 3 points. So do with that as you will. After that, I said C.J. Stroud is a green flag. Now, a lot of fantasy analysts, they'll kind of, take him down a peg or two because he doesn't make plays with his legs. With the amount of weapons he has on this team, he doesn't have to make plays with his legs. He can throw it to any place on the field, and one of his receivers will come down with the ball. He's going to get over 5,000 yards this season in passing alone. He's probably going to have 30-plus touchdowns on the season. I have no worries about C.J. Stroud in fantasy football. I got Lamar Jackson next, and once again, ADP is fair. Josh Allen is a red flag, and the only reason why he's a red flag is because of his ADP. And that could, as the season progresses and as we get closer to draft time, his ADP could drop. But right now he's going end of the second, beginning of the third, and that is far too rich for a guy whose number one wide receiver didn't play for the team last year, didn't play in the NFL last year. His number two wide receiver is an aging vet whom I love in Curtis Samuel. But beyond that, Chase Claypool, I bet none of you even knew that Chase Claypool was a Buffalo Bill, did you? I obviously knew that, but none of these things get you excited for Josh Allen. And yes, he's going to use his legs. He's going to get goal line touches. I love all that. But once again, late second, early third's too rich. Anthony Richardson is a hesitant green flag because the simple fact of the matter is if he could stay healthy, he's probably going to be the number one quarterback in fantasy football. But, and this is a big but, the chances of him getting hurt are always great. They're always great. Now, we only have one season to compare it to, but that's enough for me. That's a lot of risk. Am I staying away from Anthony Richardson because of this? No. Will I draft him at ADP? In some drafts, yes, I will, depending on what I want to do. If I'm trying to stack with Michael Pittman, yeah, I might take that play. And then you have Dak Prescott, who is an orange flag. Safe. Very, very safe pick. Can't go wrong here. Dak Prescott, when it comes to fantasy, is Mr. Consistent. So he's probably one of my favorite fantasy quarterbacks because you just can't go wrong with him. Then you have Kyler Murray. This season's going to be a huge green flag. Huge green flag. He's got a number one alpha wide receiver. They added Zay Jones, who's a field stretcher. They have Michael Wilson, who should be healthy coming into the season, and that was the Wilson whom I couldn't think of that last week. Could not get Michael Wilson in my head. I don't know why. But they got Michael Wilson. They got, McBride, Trey McBride. So they have all these weapons. They got a really good run game. I think that Kyler Murray is going to benefit. I think he's going to be a huge I think he's going to have huge upside, and I think he can end the season as a top 5 quarterback. Then you got Joe Burrow, who's a cautious yellow flag. And the only reason for caution here with Joe Burrow is he is injury prone. So, that's always going to scare you, especially at a QB whom you have to pay a high ticket price for. Now, Joe Burrow's ticket price has gone down, and that's why he's a yellow and not a red. And he has weapons galore, and they've only added to that, so I'm a big fan. Then you have Jordan Love, my next orange flag. Mr. Consistent. Once he got the ball rolling, he was consistent week in and week out. Everybody who picked them up off the waiver wire knew that they had put themselves in prime position to make the playoffs, or at least to win some weeks, because Jordan Love is consistent. They have all the weapons. Presumably all their weapons will be healthy. And so therefore I think this team is really going to hit the ground running. Then you have Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels back to back for me, and these two are 100% green flags. They can get it done with their legs. They got the arm talent. They have weapons around them. They have the run game behind them. Everything is green. Everything is go for these two young quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, big time, going to get it done with his legs more often than not, but he can launch it downfield, giving Terry McLaurin the best quarterback he's had his entire NFL career. And that is going to give us vintage and maybe even a revived new version of Terry McLaurin, who catches even more passes and gets even more yards and gets even more touchdowns. This is a stack that you want. Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. And so Jaden Daniels, green flag. Caleb Williams, super creative, creates time. He has all the weapons in the world. Just like C.J. Stroud, he can pretty much throw it to anywhere in the field and someone's coming down with it. Plus, when you get inside the red zone, more importantly, inside the 5-yard line, he can make plays with his legs and score. Then you got Tua Tagovailoa, bringing you to the second half, the second tier of quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa is a yellow flag, and the only reason why I say this is because Tua is a beginning of the season quarterback. The first half of the season, you're going to get great production. He's going to be doing things for you. When you get in that second half of the season, he tends to digress, and that does not play well for fantasy. So in this case, what I recommend is if you draft Tua, let him get through the half that season where he's getting all this production, and then try to find someone who has Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle and see if they might want to make a trade with you to get Tua for something you need. Don't try to get the house, because a lot of people don't like to trade, and especially in your standard PPR leagues. Dynasty leagues are different. In dynasty leagues, you're going to get a lot. And if you're in a Superflex league, yes, you can ask for a lot, but in your standard home leagues, your redraft leagues, you're not going to get the bank for a Tua, even if he is having a fantastic season. But maybe you can get that second tight end you need, or the backup running back, defense that you really want, stacked with another, low-level player that you can plug in on a bye week, Don't try to get the house for him, but I would get rid of him before the second half of the season comes up and the weather starts getting cold. Then we have Brock Purdy at ADP is perfect. Take him where you can get him. He is consistent. He'll get you 20 points a week because, once again, all the weapons in the world can throw the ball anywhere. Matthew Stafford is a yellow flag, and this isn't necessarily based on ADP. This is just based on injuries. Matthew Stafford's getting older. He's had injury problems. His now number two wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, is injury prone, and Tyler Higbee, get a case of the injury bug as well. So this makes me a little leery on Matthew Stafford. A healthy Stafford and a healthy Cooper Kupp jumps Matthew Stafford into the top 12 tier, in my opinion. Then we have, Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers back to back. And these guys are red flags to me. I believe if they play 17-game season, 15-game season, they're going to be top 12. Right there with Matthew Stafford in the top 12. Why? Because they have an assortment of weapons. They're very savvy veterans who know how to make plays, and they'll be awesome for you if they can play an entire season. But they both are coming off Achilles tears. That to me is, and now more so Aaron Rodgers because he's a mobile quarterback, but I think he can rein that in. But both these guys are going to take hits. Both these guys are going to have to move inside the pocket, and that is dangerous to aggravate an Achilles. And so that makes me a little leery. Would I avoid these guys at all costs? Absolutely not. But if they're going at ADP or above, I'm staying far away. If they drop into the later rounds, I might take a flyer if I get a top level quarterback like Anthony Richardson or C.J. Stroud. I might take a flyer on Cousins or on Aaron Rodgers. I actually took Cousins in a best ball league because I had C.J. Stroud. So I was like, all right, well, I'll add him in for a little bit of depth. After that, you have Baker Mayfield, Will Levis, J.J. McCarthy, and Justin Herbert. And these guys are just fine at ADP. 100%, these should not be your number one quarterbacks. And super flex leagues, these guys are great as your 2 or your 3. These are guys you plug in on your bye weeks to get you by. Hopefully the matchup works out well. I can't stress this enough. If you are getting a top 5, top 8 quarterback, and you're drafting a quarterback just for the bye week, make sure you're paying attention to what team that quarterback's playing on that bye week. Because hypothetically speaking, you draft a Will Levis or a Baker Mayfield, and they're playing the Jets, or they're playing the Steelers, or they're playing New England. This is not a good matchup defensively. So therefore, you could be in some trouble. So make sure if you're drafting a backup for the sole purpose of a bye week, look to see who they're playing that bye week. And maybe you do want them for a bye week, but you might plug them in if the matchup is right or if your number one goes down. But make sure that whatever the bye week is, their matchup is favorable. You got Jared Goff, who was another one of my orange flags, one of only 3 of orange flags that are the safest bets. He's playing in a dome 14 weeks out of 17, 18 because of the bye week. He's playing all but 3 of his games in a dome, and Jared Goff excels in a dome. And I think this is going to be Detroit's season. I think Jared Goff might be looked at as an MVP. I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown could be up for Offensive Player of the Year. Like, they've got some defensive weapons in the draft. This team is going to come out hot, and Jared Goff is going to benefit. And then we have Deshaun Watson, who is at ADP, like your last pick in the draft, whatever. If you need a backup, he's fine. How long will he last? Can he play a whole season? Is he going to play at a high level? You can't expect vintage Watson, but you need something better than what we've seen from him the last 2 seasons. And then I got Bryce Young here. Bryce Young is the last quarterback on the second tier for me, and I think that he's being highly slept on. The man was the number 1 overall pick last year and had no weapons and supported Adam Thielen for half a season. And I think Adam Thielen digressed, not Bryce Young. They have built up the O-line. They have made moves on defense, and they've added an arsenal. Xavier Legette. They added Jatavian Sanders at tight end, and most importantly, Deontay Johnson as their number 1 wide receiver. This is going to play out so lovely. Like, Bryce Young is going to have a season that's going to completely change the narrative behind him as an NFL starter. And this Carolina team is going to look completely different. A lot of people still having him finish in the bottom 5, and I don't know if I see it happening that way. If the coaching is done right, they'll be in contention for the division. And you can quote me on that, and you can hit me up and say what you want. But I think that with the weapons they've added and the fact that they've made moves on defense and on that O-line, I think this is a team that could potentially fight for a wild card spot, if not the division. Because, I mean, who's in their division? You got Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is tough, but I think Bryce Young is better than Baker Mayfield. Atlanta's tough. Will Kirk Cousins play a whole season? And if he doesn't, will Michael Penix come in and play a whole season? Will he come in and be a star? Will he outperform Bryce Young, who already has a year under his belt? I don't know if he can do all that. Can he surpass New Orleans, who all they have is defense? Derek Carr is aging. He's not the man he used to be. And if Spencer Rattler comes in, now that's where we can get a little dangerous. I'm a Spencer Rattler believer. I think once he gets the starting job, we're going to see a completely different team there in New Orleans, and it's going to be very dangerous. This division is changing and molding into something that's going to be very dangerous in a year or two. And then, obviously you got to mention the runts of the litter. Trevor Lawrence, he got a new wide receiver in Brian Thomas, and he has Christian Kirk. They added Gabe Davis, but they still have Evan Ingram, and they still have Travis Etienne. So Trevor Lawrence, he's going to be boom or bust. He's either going to figure it out this year, and they're going to drive this ball down the field and score touchdowns and not drop balls and not throw interceptions, or they're just going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. Their division is one of the toughest in the NFL right now, and it's Trevor Lawrence either needs to step it up or he's going to be on a different team next year. Drake May, I wouldn't draft Drake May, but I think that there is potential on this New England team. Potential to win the division? Absolutely not. But potential for Drake May to have a second half of the season where he's a fantasy stud? Absolutely. The man can run. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he's accurate. If he can bring all these things together and be coached to do his job and do what he needs to get done, oh boy. Fantasy-wise, he could be very dangerous. Then you have Geno Smith. What Geno Smith are you going to get? Are we going to get 2023 Geno Smith, who was a super dud? Or are we going to get 2022 Geno Smith, who was comeback player of the year and a fantasy beast? I don't know. But there's new coaching over there, and we're about to find out. So keep an eye out for Geno Smith and the potential for him to turn this around. Gardner Minshew, however, I love the mustache, man. And he's got all the weapons he could ask for. This is even a better situation than he had in Indianapolis. And Michael Pittman was a fantasy stud. Gardner Minshew was a plug-and-play guy. You probably get 18 points out of him. Better roster, maybe you get 20 a week, I find it hard to doubt Gardner Minshew when it comes to fantasy. But like I said, this is a guy you're just going to keep an eye on. You're just going to be like, you're doing nice things right now. Let me pick you up and see what happens next week, That it's one of those things you just got to figure out as the season progresses. Russell Wilson. This is a guy I will not draft. I don't believe Russell Wilson finishes the season. I do think he starts. I don't know that he'll ever be fantasy relevant, and that's the problem. Short dink and dunk passes is his bread and butter as of late. New coaching with Mike Tomlin, but then you got Arthur Smith. I really don't want any parts of Pittsburgh offensively outside of maybe Freiermuth and the defense. Like, outside of that, I'm terrified. I will, however, with a last pick, take a shot on Roman Wilson. And then you have Bo Nix. Bo Nix is way too much of a wild card. I have no idea what's going to happen there. I do like the fact that they drafted Troy Franklin to give him some familiarity. I do like that it looks like they're going to retain Cortland Sutton, which gives him the vet. Marvin Mims, who's that wide receiver who has all the talent in the world but was held back by coaching. Is he still going to be held back? Same head coach? I don't really know. And then supposedly Tim Patrick's healthy, And me and my guys in my home league, we like to draft ourselves some Tim Patrick if he's healthy. So Bo Nix is a little scary for me. If you're in a super flex league, he's definitely going to be probably one of the last quarterbacks off the board. And if you're there, I would go ahead and snag him up. Here is the biggest question mark, in my opinion, is Daniel Jones. Another quarterback coming off an ACL, right? Achilles, ACL, one or the other. And he's a running quarterback. Vanilla Vic. If we get Vanilla Vic back, adding Malik Neighbors, this could be a dangerous, dangerous roster. And I think that if you get Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones is available on your last pick, I might pick him up just to have that stack available so that if Daniel Jones returns to form 2 years ago, 2022, when he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback, that has a lot of value for a nothing pick, a throwaway pick, a guy you was going to pick up to then drop once somebody got hot, Unless, you drafted Tank Dell or Puka Nacua your last pick last year, then, that's a different story. But I think it's worth with your last pick, if you've got Malik Neighbors, to take a flyer on Daniel Jones. Now, I have it written down in the opposite direction, but I'm going to say it in the way it should be said. So Derek Carr is next on the list. Derek Carr is a quarterback I have no interest in drafting. I think even if in a super flex league, I'd stay away from him even if I only had 2 quarterbacks. I just don't believe in fantasy value from Derek Carr. I'd rather take a backup like Jacoby Brissett or Jameson Winston or Tyrod Taylor or Michael Penix, someone who might play because their quarterback's probably going to get hurt, But Derek Carr, I feel like it's better to grab Spencer Rattler. He's probably going to play at some point, and he's going to do better, and you don't want to be late on the Spencer Rattler train. And then finally, even though he is a backup, I had to put him on this list. And this, like I said, these are the bottom barrel tier guys. And that's Justin Fields. He's the only backup I'm actually putting on this list. If I had to pick another one, it would be Michael Penix. But Justin Fields is going to start in Pittsburgh at some point. And once he does, if you don't have him on your roster, you're going to regret it. Because he's going to, nothing can stop this man from making plays and getting yards and points with his feet. And then he's going to air it down the field. And that once Justin Fields is on the field, that's when you want George Pickens, because that's all he knows how to do is throw it deep. He's just going to be throwing deep shots at George Pickens and hoping he can make a play. And that's what George Pickens does. He makes a play. He goes and gets the ball. So if you draft George Pickens, Justin Fields should be your last pick, because at some point in time, those 2 guys are going to link up. All right. Let's get into the tight end situation, because this, and fantasy analysts say it, so I'll say it too, is as people who love fantasy football, we always think this is the year of the tight end. But looking at the tight ends that we have available this year, it's hard not to think that this is the year of the tight end. Starting off strong with the new king of the mountain, knocking Travis Kelce not only off it, but a few levels below, is Sam Laporta. Funny story, I met Sam Laporta's uncle on my 2-year anniversary cruise. And his wife is also the cousin of the dude from the Mark Wahlberg Philadelphia Eagles movie, based on a true story. Her cousin is that guy who Mark Wahlberg played. I forgot what his name was, but, it's usually a conversation starter, and we're not having a conversation. You're just listening to me jabbing my jaw. So, either way, Sam Laporta at his ADP is pretty fair. You're never going to get him any lower than that unless you just have guys who don't like tight ends. So, I love his tight end. He is a green flag. I can't imagine that he's going to do worse than he did last year. And how much better can he do? I think the sky is the limit for Laporta. He's a beast. And then I believe I am the only one who sees it this way, but Trey McBride as the number 2 tight end. Kyler Murray is going to be ready to roll week 1. He's going to have a full training camp. He came in and developed a rapport at the end of the season, and who was his favorite target? It was Trey McBride. Marvin Harris Jr. is going to come in, and he's going to take on all that all that double teaming, leaving Trey McBride to just gobble up targets in the short and intermediate. He's gonna be the red zone target. I love Trey McBride this year, and I've been trying to get him on as many. This is the first time I'm trying to draft a tight end early, and it's Trey McBride. And then I struggled with this right here between Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts, and Mark Andrews. And I settled on Travis Kelce. You know, at the end of the day, that's my dog right there. I love Travis Kelce. He's such an incredible talent, an incredible football player, and he is just he's a true baller. I can't say, man, crush me if you want, but Travis Kelce is a dog, so I can't drop him any lower than 3, but I got to hit him with the red flag. He's getting a little bit older, and not to his, decision, but the coach is going to try to utilize him less in order to have him full go come playoff time. And you saw playoff time, Travis Kelce was a beast. Regular season, off and on, not so great. So, excuse me. Lights are in my eyes. So, I just think Travis Kelce could, with all the weapons around him, I don't think he's going to be a target monster, but I think he's a guy who's going to have big plays, and he's going to be a red zone threat because homeboy is slick. He's super slick. He knows how to get open. After this, I got to go with tried and true Mark Andrews. Injury prone, but they got rid of the hip drop tackle, and that was the thing that took him out last year. And without that hip drop tackle, we probably would have had Mark Andrews for the full season. So I am going to bet on Andrews to have a good season, but I'm also going to drop that yellow flag, proceed with caution. Try to get him as late as you can possibly get him. Try to let him drop a couple spots from his ADP. And then next, I'm going to get the hate, and I know it. But at number 5, I have to put Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is about to have the best quarterback play he's ever had. He's going to have better coaching. Schemes are going to be better. If he can't do it this year, then all of us have been wrong. And this man has just been a bust that we've made excuses for. Man, my eyes are really just dry. So this is the last opportunity for Kyle Pitts, in my opinion. And if you're a fantasy lover, this is the last year you can give Kyle Pitts any love. And I mean, at the ADP, it's pretty good, but I'm going to drop the yellow flag, proceed with caution, because we're going off something we only kind of seen once his rookie year. After this is my one and only orange flag, and he is, when it comes to fantasy, my favorite tight end. And if I can get Trey McBride and my boy Evan Ingram, which would be stupid because I'd be drafting them, so I'd have to draft them relatively close to each other, but I wouldn't be mad if I did because I'd probably play one in the tight end and one in the flex. Evan Ingram is so consistent. He is Trevor Lawrence's favorite target. He's Trevor Lawrence's most consistent target. And if he can bump up the tutties this year, he could end up finishing as a top 5, if not top 3 tight end. It's all in the realm of possibility, and it's right there for the taking. Trevor Lawrence needs to step his game up a little bit and get my boy Evan Ingram the ball in the red zone, in the end zone. Then we move on to Dalton Kincaid, who got to be a green flag this year. He was so highly touted coming out, had a slow start to the season, but once he got going, he was a very good tight end. Now, the target competition, he is the leader of the pack. He is the Travis Kelce of the Buffalo Bills. Will he beat Travis Kelce? That's the big question. Kincaid has the possibility and the skills and the target share to get to the top 5 in the tight ends. And so I got to put the green flag on him. Once again, a guy who can also finish as a top 3 tight end, depending on how things go. Then I have to put George Kittle with the yellow flag caveat because Injuries, man. He can get hurt. Also, he needs somebody to be injured to be very relevant. He's in there a lot of times to block, which takes him out sometimes on pass plays. And like I said, he does get hurt. Plus, he gets hindered by Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuels. Now, if one of those two either goes down or gets traded, George Kittle gets bumped up the list at least 2 places. But as of right now, I got to put him where I have him after Kincaid with the yellow flag. Next green flag has got to be the rookie Brock Bowers. I think that Brock Bowers is that Swiss Army knife. He can do so many things, and I think he comes in and immediately becomes the number 2 target for Gardner Minshew. I think he becomes Gardner Minshew's safety blanket. Devontae Adams is the man, his first read that he's going to look for, and when the play falls apart, where's Brock Bowers? Nice and short, cross route, out route, whatever, a screen pass, any of those things are going to happen, and Brock Bowers is going to make plays with his feet. And I can't wait to see this man explode on the Raiders. Then next we got Dallas Goedert and David Njoku. And these guys are just fine at ADP. I put Goedert ahead of Njoku. I don't know how that will play out. I put Goedert ahead of Njoku just because of quarterback play. I think Njoku is actually the better tight end. And if he wasn't hindered by this Deshaun Watson experiment, I think he'd be a lot better. He was so much better with Joe Flacco, which is weird that they let Joe Flacco go after winning Comeback Player of the Year. They let him go sign with Indy. They should have re-signed him there. So we'll see how that plays out. Then I got Tucker Kraft and I think Ben Sinnott. I got the second-year tight end and the rookie tight end. Green flags for the both of them. Why? Tucker Kraft is the better tight end on Green Bay. He proved that last year. He stayed healthy. I think he is going to bump up his volume a little bit more. I think he'll be a very good tight end 2 on anybody's roster. And I think he could possibly pass as a tight end 1, low-end tight end 1. You know, there's only, if you got 10, 12 teams, you're going to have 10 to 12. You're going to have 10, 12 top-of-the-line tight ends. You're not. And once you get past Brock Bowers, you're kind of, weeding through the muddy waters and hoping that you strike gold. And Tucker Kraft can be the gold. I really believe it. And Ben Sinnott, probably one of the most NFL-ready tight ends out of the draft, probably one of the best, if top 2 tight ends coming out of the draft. And he gets paired up with Jaden Daniels. And I think he will be Jaden Daniels' safety blanket and his favorite red zone target. I love this fit. They needed a tight end, and I think he's going to come in, and he's going to get work and be successful right away. Then we got Jake Ferguson and Pat Freiermuth. These are the 2 tight ends that you can draft at ADP, and you're not going to be excited, but you don't need to be panicked. You don't need to be worried. I think these 2 guys are going to get the volume that will fill your stomach. Not fill it, but, you eat a slice of pizza, you're not full, but you're not hungry. That's Jake Ferguson and Pat Freiermuth. Then we got Cole Kmet and TJ Hawkinson, and these guys are red flags. Might as well throw in Gerald Everett here, but I got Gerald Everett a lot lower. These guys are all red flags. Cole Kmet is sharing tight end targets with Gerald Everett. I love Cole Kmet, but once they added Gerald Everett, his stock dropped. It plummeted. Lot of targets out there. They got 3 wide receivers and 2 tight ends, plus one of the best pass-catching running backs in the NFL. It's a lot of targets to get around, and Cole Kmet is not going to earn enough of them. I will say he's the better of the 2 tight ends when it comes to earning targets, but that's a tough road to go. Cole Kmet's got to be your number 2 guy and hoping towards the end of the season because of injuries or something that he gets more targets. You got T.J. Hawkinson going to miss half the season. At his ADP, it's a little rich. You're only going to play half of a season, and you're paying whole season tight end price. So that's a tough one. Noah Fant, Dalton Schultz, and Jatavian Sanders. These guys, no flags. Just pick him at ADP, fingers crossed, and hope for the best. Schultz, he's sharing targets, but maybe he gets some red zone bites because all the wide receivers are tied up. Jatavian Sanders, he'll be the only guy worth throwing the ball to at the tight end position. So I think him coming in as a second-year tight end, I think Bryce Young is going to latch onto him and Xavier Legette right away. And then you have Noah Fant on Seattle. They lost Will Dissly, so Noah Fant steps up as that number one tight end, and I hope we can get some vintage Noah Fant. After that, you got Tyler Conklin and Okonkwo and Tyler Higbee. And these are desperation darts for your number two tight end, hoping that these guys can show the potential that they have. These are good tight ends, but they always, they're hype and then they fall short. Let's hope that this year, Conklin, hopefully he has Aaron Rodgers. If he has Aaron Rodgers, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to love getting him the ball because Aaron Rodgers likes throwing to his tight end. Okonkwo is on a loaded roster right now when it comes to receiving core, but he's the best tight end, so maybe Will Levis on as a security blanket will find Okonkwo. And then you have Tyler Higbee, who is once again the only tight end, the most viable tight end on that Rams offense. A lot of weapons though, so what will he get? Finally, you got Jonnu Smith, who is going to Miami. I got to throw the green flag on this guy. He is the speedster tight end that they wanted. And we all know, if you was watching football last year, Jonnu Smith is fast. He got that screen pass and took it to the house for like 20, 30 yards, cutting through defenders. This is what the Miami Dolphins was looking for, and they got it in Jonnu Smith. And then down here in the graveyard of tight ends, Luke Musgrave, the rookie who was supposed to break out but didn't. You keep an eye on him. Isaiah Likely, the guy who came in for the injured Mark Andrews and looked kind of good. Keep an eye on him as well. I always forget his name, but Woods, the tight end in Indianapolis. There's a lot of targets going around, but every year is the year he's going to break out. This is the third year, and we're hoping we're going to get some good value out of this guy. Will it happen? I don't know. Then you got Darren Waller, the guy who never plays football because he's always hurt. Is he even going to play football this year? If he is and he's healthy, he is a good target. Zach Ertz playing for Washington. I like this a lot. He's shown last year that he still has gas in the tank and he can still earn targets. So this would probably be the best guy if you're digging in the trash for a tight end to look out for. Eric All. Now, Mike Gesicki is going to be the number one tight end target in Cincinnati. And I actually really like Mike Gesicki there because he's a pass-catching tight end. But Eric All might have been a top 3 tight end in the draft this past year if it wasn't due to injury. And he landed in the best place he could. So keep an eye out for Eric All. Not a lot of your fantasy guys are going to know about Eric All. Keep an eye out on him. Gerald Everett, too many targets. If you're desperate. Michael Mayer, once again, a lot of targets going around, but last year, first-round draft pick, on a team that's going to be throwing the ball a lot, so maybe Michael Mayer can have his breakout. Irv Smith Jr. playing for Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes does revitalize people. Maybe he could do that for Irv Smith because it hasn't happened in Minnesota. And it didn't happen in Cincinnati. One last try in Kansas City. Let's see how it goes. Hunter Henry is going to be a good red zone target for Drake May. How often will they be in red zone position to get Hunter Henry the ball? Dawson Knox, it's a name. He could do something. They need to throw the ball, so we'll see. And then Dulcich. Greg Dulcich in Denver. I don't actually hate this, but he got hurt last year. He was out all year. So if he's healthy, this could be a guy who can jump into this top 12, top 20 tight end range. He has the talent for it. He just hasn't shown it. All right, so there you go. There you have it. Those are my tight ends in the draft order, red flag, green flag, and we got the bottom of the barrel. So there was a little topic, a little segment I wanted to get into this week. I wanted to try it. And let's talk about stacking. And if you don't know what stacking is, I mean, there's multiple ways to stack. But I'm talking about your most basic stack where you draft a wide receiver and then you make your best attempt at drafting their quarterback. So that way, all the touchdowns to from Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown, they go to you. All the touchdowns to Devontae Smith go to you, and Dallas Goedert go to you, but they also go to somebody else. But if you got Jalen Brown, every time he gets points, so does Hurts. It's a great way to stack quality. And I'm going to rank the stacks, starting from the number one stack. Wouldn't you know it? It's Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is a beast. He's probably one of the most underrated wide receivers, especially in fantasy. I think people get afraid to draft him, and then they're afraid to play against him when their opponent has him on their roster because he is a dog. He earns targets. He's a big body wide receiver who can go up and get the ball in contested passes. Plus, he's hard to take down. I love A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts. Everybody's talking about, I don't know what Jalen Hurts is. Well, you know what? When it comes to fantasy, Jalen Hurts has been quite consistent. And so I don't care if he's winning a ton of games, making playoffs and getting Super Bowls. We're talking about fantasy football right now. And when it comes to fantasy football, Jalen Hurts is a dog, and he can run the ball too. So I love this stack right here. It's probably the best stack you can have. Next on the list could be a little controversial. It's Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is a top 3 wide receiver this year. And Dak Prescott has been, when healthy, has been consistent in the top 5, minimum, I think, top 8 quarterbacks in fantasy. The man is putting up points. He got me to the championship last year. And if it wasn't for the lack of one more catch from Justin Jefferson, I'd be champ. You know what I'm saying? So Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb are going to go off this year. At 3, and this is where I'm going to get even more controversial, and this is also presuming a 17-game season, Anthony Richardson and Michael Pittman. Anthony Richardson could probably finish as number 1 quarterback in fantasy if he stays healthy 17 games, and Michael Pittman is going to be the biggest beneficiary of that. And if they can link up the way they did in the first 4 games, Anthony Richardson could be one of the best quarterbacks. Michael Pittman's not going to be one of the best wide receivers, but together as a stack is money in the bank. At number 4, I've got Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. is being highlighted as the alpha wide receiver, that he is the perfect prospect in most aspects of a fantasy wide receiver and a traditional NFL wide receiver. So if Kyler Murray is fully healthy and can return to form, you're looking at a top 5 quarterback and a top 10 wide receiver. So I love this stack at 4. At 5, another controversial, dropping them so low, is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. The reason why I have to drop them lower is because the lack of rushing from Joe Burrow, plus he gets hurt almost every year. It's going to drop him back. He's going to lose games. When he's in, he's going to be top 5 quarterback, definitely. And when he's in and healthy, Jamar Chase is probably going to be top 3, maybe even top 2, possibly the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football this year. But I got to put him at 5 because of that injury-prone behavior. Then you got Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin at 6. I don't care what you guys say. Jaden Daniels can air the ball out and is super accurate, and he's going to be taking off running, and it's going to be awesome. I think we're going to get better than vintage Terry McLaurin out of this combo, and I think there's a possibility for them to even be higher than a top 6 stack. I was just trying to be modest. Then at 7, we have Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. I love Garrett Wilson. I amazingly got him as my 3rd pick last year, and my 2nd pick last year. I got him at the end of the 2nd round. I could not believe it. I had the most incredible potential in my roster, and due to whatever was going on, it was just crazy. What is that blinking blue light? That's weird, right? You see the blink on the line? Cool. Anyway, um, so Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson. I drafted Bijan. No, I did get Garrett in the third. Yo, this was crazy. You guys just gotta hear it. If you're listening to this for fantasy value, you gotta hear this draft. We're talking about pure potential last year, before anybody knew what was gonna happen. I got Bijan Robinson in the first, Amon-Ra St. Brown in the second. Come back in the third for Garrett Wilson. Come back in the fourth for Calvin Ridley. If these guys played to their potential, I would have had two of the top 5 wide receivers, a top 10 wide receiver, maybe top 12 if I'm being modest, and top 5 running back. But Arthur Smith, Aaron Rodgers, and Trevor Lawrence had different plans for me, and they dropped the quality of my players. I'll never get the ability to draft those guys in that order ever again. Hurts my feelings. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. So Aaron Rodgers, 17-game season with Garrett Wilson. Man, it's going to be insane. Garrett Wilson will be a top 5 wide receiver, and Rodgers probably, top 15 maybe. All right, and then we got at number 8, we've got Tua Tagovailoa with Tyreek Hill. The only reason why I put these guys so low is because Tua is merely a pocket passer, very accurate, but very cautious with the ball. Tyreek Hill is a monster, and I think these guys will put up points, and it's not like I got them at 12. They're coming in at 8. At number 9, and this is going to be the most controversial pick. This is the one I'm going to get the most kickback for, but I don't care what any of y'all say. This is going to be the quarterback wide receiver duo that everybody is going to be talking about because nobody is going to see it coming the way I'm seeing it coming. Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. People, they think DJ Moore 1, Keenan Allen 2, Odunze 3. Some people might say Odunze 2 because Keenan Allen's going to be playing in that slot position. But hear me now. Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze are building a kinship right now. These two are becoming brothers in battle. And 100% Caleb Williams is going to tell these coaches that Odunze needs to be on the field. And Odunze is going to be his first read. These are 2 rookies coming in who want to make their mark on the NFL. They want to be recognized as the best. Caleb Williams believes he's the best quarterback in the NFL. He believes he's the best quarterback who ever lived, and good for him for believing that. And is he wrong? I don't know. Is he right? I don't know. But show me. And he wants to show the world this. He wants to come in and make his mark and do things that have never been done. And he don't want to do that with some old dudes. He wants to do that with a young kid who understands him in his mentality, in his age, and he got that in Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze is a number 1 wide receiver. And I think these two linked up together is going to be one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos we've ever seen. 100%, write it down. All right, after that, at number 10, I have Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua. And this could be Cooper Kupp. It could be Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp. And these are 3 guys that you can actually get on the same roster. You draft Puka Nacua in the first, maybe come back and get Kyren Williams in the second. In the third, pick whoever you want. In the fourth, come back and get Cooper Kupp, maybe even in the fifth, depending on the draft you're in. And then later on, some late round, go ahead and grab Matthew Stafford. That's an incredible stack right there. And then once their bye week's gone, oh boy, you have him for the rest of the season. It's a great stack. But Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua is the number 10 stack for me. Then at 11, we got Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's be clear that these two are playing in a dome once again for 14 weeks. You can't discount that. It's going to be great. I wanted to put Patrick Mahomes, but who do you put? Do I put Travis Kelce? Do I put Rashee Rice, if he doesn't get suspended? Do I put Xavier Worthy? Is it going to be Marquise Brown if he plays a full season? I think Patrick Mahomes is in a tier all of his own where he's this amazing quarterback who just gets everybody the ball. And if you get Patrick Mahomes, make sure you get one of his weapons. That's all I got to say. Just get one of his weapons because it's going to be insane. Now, with the last couple minutes, I'm gonna keep it in the same thing. Stacks that you might be interested in if you get the player and you can get that quarterback late. Number 13, Bryce Young with Deontay Johnson, and this is gonna be a stack I'm gonna make. If I get Deontay Johnson, I'm drafting Bryce Young at the end of every draft that I get Deontay Johnson 100%. And people are gonna be like, "Oh, Bryce Young," and I'm like, "Watch what you see. I'm gonna put your foot in your mouth." At number 14, Brock Purdy and either Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. Whichever one you get, I recommend stacking them with Brock Purdy. At 15, I got Justin Jefferson, and it depends. If I don't know, to be honest with you, I got to put Justin Jefferson in that same Patrick Mahomes category. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL. Is he like a Devontae Adams and a D-Hop? He's quarterback proof. We're going to find out. And I would recommend if you draft Justin Jefferson, possibly grab his quarterback because he might go off. At 16, I got Josh Allen with Keon Coleman. I might want to flip this to Dalton Kincaid, and I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to put Dalton Kincaid with Josh Allen. I think this will be the one tight end quarterback duo that will shine like a bright star. At 17, I got C.J. Stroud and whichever wide receiver you like. I don't like drafting the wide receivers, but if you grab Tank Dell or Nico Collins, I like that. If you're desperate and grab Stephon Diggs, it could work out. At 18, I got Geno Smith and Metcalf. If you get vintage Geno Smith, who you can get so late, end of your draft, last pick, you can get Geno Smith. If you get DK Metcalf and you want to take a flyer on him and you get 2022 Geno Smith, you're looking at a steal in your draft. At 19, Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. They worked out last year. Presumably, they should work out this year. And Mike Evans, you're going to have to get him a little early, but you could definitely get Baker Mayfield a little late. And then finally, Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper. And this is just because Amari Cooper is such a stud. I feel like he elevates Deshaun Watson and gives him someone who runs some of the best routes in the NFL, is very good at separation and earning targets. So it's fair to say if Cooper is good, Deshaun Watson is going to benefit from that to some degree. And then the very last one I have on this list, number 21, and this is 2 last picks just because you want to try it, just because you're a true blue New England Patriots fan. Last 2 picks in the draft is Jalen Polk, Drake May. And I think Jalen Polk is going to be really good this year. And I think if Drake May gets the opportunity to start, that he could be fantasy relevant. So that's how I play it out. That's how I think it's going to go. All right. That's all I have for you this week. And until next week, have a good night. Peace.